Greetings, everyone. This is Jackie K, and welcome for the next edition of Amiibo Show. I'm really excited about this one because this time we're going to be going over what is probably my most favorite custom yet. You see, when I first got started with doing custom Amiibos, I had one ultimate goal. And while this isn't the ultimate goal, this is an idea spared off right from it, so it's like the second ultimate goal I had at the time. I'm just chuckling so much because I'm making such a big fuss out. This is the ultimate achievement! The second ultimate achievement. But really, I'm pretty proud of this thing, and I really want to give you all a closer look at it. Despite how it might lord how you look at it. And this is my good old Zelda Amiibo. You might have actually seen it in the background for previous Amiibo shows, but not like this. Where do I even start with talking about this thing? There's so much to talk about. Oh yeah, who she is now. Well, give me one moment. I'll give you something that might be a little bit more familiar, if you haven't already guessed the comparison. Oh. It says you can consider this the reference tool or inspiration. Something you just happen to have for comparison's sake. This custom is of Yukiko Nami from Persona 4. I don't know, she's one of my favorite characters from the game. Definitely one of my first favorites, and I would say she was still my favorite, but she grew on me as I played the game. Well, you might not be able to notice as much as I actually used clay to actually cover up, I believe there was jewels or something in the chest area before to make her look more like Yukiko. And I didn't really touch much of the details of the dress. Or should I say, I haven't touched the center there because I just like the Zelda design so much that it felt kind of bad to just paint over everything. In fact, there was details along the bottom here that I felt pretty bad painting over just that. And I almost want to just add like a red line across the bottom there to make up for the details that I replaced, but this probably makes her close to the replica that I can make with my current skill sets. Probably look nicer if we can remove the shoulder pads, but alas, that's not quite possible for me. And the more I use it and look at her, the more I like it with the shoulder pads. I was even able to replace the blue with red. Because if you don't know, Yukiko's favorite color is red. Like, you might have been able to guess that from the red coloring if you weren't assuming her favorite color is gray from all the gray on her dress. One thing that is worth noting, guys, if you're going to be doing customs yourself, it might be good to try to invest in like a magic eraser tip or some sort of way to get in smaller areas, because that's my biggest struggle with custom amiibos, those tight areas. You accidentally get painted in an area and you're kind of out of luck. I've been thankful enough not to run into situations. Well, I definitely ran into situations, but for it not to be noticeable overall. And I like how the hair was done. I was a little worried that it wouldn't come out as good just painting over it, but I cover up a surprising amount of detail that I didn't think would get cover up to make it look more like her hair overall and not the bandages that the original Zelda Amiibo had. And with her hands, I was conflicted on whether to follow the crevices of the original dress, which kind of like goes into a point about here, or to do it the way I did. But my decision was, you can't really see that detail unless you're looking really close at it, like I'm putting it to the camera. So I figured it would look better just doing it the way Yukiko's dress actually is instead of the way Zelda's dress is. If you're following me here. That's my over-announcing analysis on this Amiibo. I mean, it's my favorite one. It's a lot more creative than the recolors I've been doing before, so forgive me if I've been blabbering on about it much. Even got the little black area for a shoe. And if you actually... And yes, I actually did get more than just what you can visibly see. If you know what I mean. On the off chance that this video isn't quite long enough, as is though, might as well cover like the little buddy. Wasn't intentionally made to be your little buddy, but it just worked out because this is Teddy from the same game series. And this is probably the most effort I put into a minifigure. Originally it was like, once upon a time, I've been making a lot of little Kirby since, like, I need to step up my game. I need to do something simple, but more complicated. Boy, did I not realize how complicated this little guy would be. I think my favorite parts, if you could tell by how much I know move my mouth, was basically anything that's smaller than my fingertip. Like the hair, the ears, well, the tail isn't so bad, the button, and tail, ears, and little button front. Even the zipper was a bit annoying. For different reasons though. I basically made a one long piece, but because it was small I had to make it tiny. It would often break apart before I could get it around his neck. Painting his face was a little annoying because I had to mix paints and they weren't mixing that well. So if you look at it close, you might be able to see it a bit smudged, but I'm still proud of it overall. It works pretty well with just sitting next to my Zelda Yukiko figure as well. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. For those who think that I just collect these Amiibos and have them sit on my shelf, well, the funny thing is I can't really just have them sit on my shelf because I actually use them so much. Yukiko, for example, is probably one of my most overpowered Amiibos in Smash. I mean, it doesn't help that I gave her the auto heal equipment and fed it to her, so she kind of is overpowered without. But her abilities, from how I train her, don't help the situation either. It's weird, I don't consider myself a Zelda main, but even before I gave her the auto heal, she was already beating all my other Amiibos. Just after one training session all the way up to level 50. Compared to, like, HeroCon, my Diddy Amiibo that I actually restarted to try to train from scratch. But then again, I think there might have been some stats boosting equipments as well. Equipments do make a bit of a difference. But I notice when I play with them a lot on my 3DS, it's still possible for it to be anyone's game. Now I definitely blabber too much about customs. Funny thing though, there's still more to come. I think that's it for my personal collections, but there's two more that I'm making in particular that are repeats of ones I already own, but I am going to plan to sell them. Whether it be online or next convention I go to. And I'll be happy to show them off in the next edition of Amiibo Show. Maybe not the next edition of Amiibo Show, but the next time we talk about customizable Amiibos for sure. So, take care everyone.